I stood at the edge of the reception the way I've stood at the edge of most rooms my adult life, close enough to be useful, far enough not to interrupt. I kept my hands busy. Plates, napkins, the stray glass someone set down and forgot. It wasn't my wedding. It wasn't even my family anymore, not in the way it used to be. It was an event and I was a guest by courtesy. The passbook was in my bag, wrapped in a handkerchief that had once been white. I'd taken it out the night before and run my thumb over the raised numbers the way you do when you're checking that something real hasn't turned into an idea. I didn't plan a speech. I didn't plan anything. I just planned to hand it to her when the noise dipped low enough for a sentence to survive. She smiled when she saw me, the polite version she's learned. The one that doesn't ask questions it might not like the answers to. Her husband was beside her, already flushed, already bored. I gave her the passbook. I said, "This is yours," and that was all. She laughed first, surprised, and then embarrassed. She flipped through it as if expecting a trick. "Mom," she said, loud enough for the people closest to lean in. "Is this just a few loose bills?" She glanced at the fountain behind her, a bright thing designed to be photographed. Before I could answer, she tossed it. The book hit the water and sank with a soft, ridiculous plop. The handkerchief floated for a second, then followed. There was a ripple of laughter. Someone clapped. Her husband smirked in a way that suggested he'd been waiting for a chance to speak. "Your mom's just a cleaner anyway," he said, as if stating a weather report. "What did you expect?" I remember noticing the music didn't stop. How strange that felt. How the world kept time even when a private clock broke. I didn't argue. I didn't retrieve the book. I didn't look at her again. I walked out because staying would have meant explaining myself, and I was tired of translating my life into something that sounded acceptable. That night, my apartment felt smaller than usual. I laid the passbook's twin, the newer one I'd kept, on the table. I made tea and forgot to drink it. I thought about nights scrubbing floors after office hours, about saying no to things that would have made me visible and yes to things that made me solvent. I thought about how interest works when you leave it alone. In the morning, I went to the bank. It was an ordinary building with ordinary chairs. I took a number and waited. When it was my turn, I slid the passbook across the counter. The teller scanned it once, twice. Her smile thinned. She excused herself and disappeared. Minutes passed. People shifted. I considered leaving. I've learned not to draw attention when attention isn't friendly. A man in a darker suit came out and asked me to sit. He spoke carefully, as if the air itself had rules. "Ma'am," he said, after checking the screen again, "do not leave." Something loosened in my chest. Not relief exactly, but confirmation. The account hadn't been a gesture. It hadn't been a hope. It had been a fact. They explained things to me I already knew, only slower, with more respect than I was used to hearing. Numbers were mentioned. Procedures. Options. The teller's hands shook when she handed the book back. When I stepped outside, the day was the same day it had been when I went in. Cars, weather, people late to things that mattered to them. I stood there longer than necessary, letting the ordinary reassert itself. I thought of my daughter, not with anger but with a new understanding of distance. Love doesn't disappear because it's mishandled, but it does change shape. I would help her again, maybe, or maybe I wouldn't. Either way, it would be my choice, not my reflex. The fountain at the venue would be cleaned by someone before evening. Coins retrieved. Paper replaced. That's how things go. What settles stays settled unless disturbed. I walked home with the passbook in my bag, heavier than it had been the day before. Not because of what it could buy, but because of what it proved. I had not been wrong about myself. I had simply been quiet.